Hey, what's going on, everybody? So welcome to my 100K stream. I hit 100,000 subscribers last week, but we couldn't schedule this out till now. So we're going to go ahead and shoot this today. And a few things, we have a few technical difficulties. So if I start lagging here, there's a lot of wind in my city. So we've been having some issues before the stream. So if we have that, sorry about that. Hopefully the audio is still good. So today I have Francesco and Tommy here. And for my stream, instead of talking about my own successes, it feels a little bit weird to just do a full stream dedicated to myself. I wanted to honor two people that I've seen that I know are going to be very successful in their career on YouTube and everything that they do here. So I want to give them a chance. We want to just share some stories, and we want to make this a casual conversation along with a giveaway that a lot of people are here for. So I want to make sure to address that right away. So what I'll do is I'll just finish up my introduction here. I'll explain to you how you can get my course, the React Django e-commerce course. A lot of people have been loving that course as they bought it. A lot of you guys cannot afford that. I understand some people live in parts of the world where you just don't have credit card processing or you can't make online payments. So I understand that. And I want a chance for you guys to be able to get that. So let's actually address that right now. And then I want to go ahead and start this chat here where we'll go through the backstory, the journey here, and just share some experiences. So I'm going to share my screen. And if you guys want to get the course, here's how I'm doing this. So we had a few sponsors, one being Francesco. Francesco actually bought a couple of courses, so he's sponsoring a few students here. So because of Francesco and, oh boy, I forgot the name, somebody on Twitter, I'll find them in a second. Somebody else bought a bunch of courses for you guys. So they just wanted to donate and make sure that you guys can get the free courses. So because of them, you guys can go to DennisIV.com. So go to my website here. I'll share the screen and give me 1 second to do that. So I'll share the screen here. So go to DennisIV.com and go ahead and submit your name, your email, and a project you've been working on, because I want to give this to people that cannot afford this. I really hope that if you can afford it, don't take it away from somebody who can't, because we're limiting this to about 50, maybe 100 students that are going to get a free version of this. So go ahead and submit that in a project you've been working on. I want to make sure you're working on something. You're not just testing things out. So if you're actively working on a project, it could be a GitHub repo, a live link, just to show that you're working on something. So submit that at DennisIV.com, and I will be getting back to you guys in an email. So I won't be announcing the winners here. There's going to be a lot of you guys that are going to get the course. So go ahead and submit that. And now that we've addressed it, let's go ahead and get back into our 100K stream here. So throughout this process, I started this about a year and a couple of months ago. It's been a crazy journey from people that I've met, from students that I've been able to talk to, you guys getting jobs, and just all these success stories. I had no idea that it can blow up this fast and I can reach so many people. So that's been amazing to see. And with that being said, Francesco, if you want to, I'll just start with you. I want to introduce you and maybe share what you're doing, because the reason why I picked you was because of your style. Like, there's certain people that I can tell are going to be doing really good, and I love what you're doing. So share your story of maybe all the interviews you've done too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dennis. I'm Francesco. I'm 37. I'm from Rome, Italy, and basically, I've never been a social person. So I really like that developer that you can think that is just in a corner, just coding, watching tutorials, watching YouTube. This was me just 1 year ago, and then 1 year ago, I changed my mindset. I started using Twitter, maybe a little bit too much. And then after 6 months, I can't remember, on August, I published my very first video on YouTube. And I really enjoyed that. And today I've published my 141 video, I think, 41st video, I think. And
congrats, by the way.
Thank you so much. So now I've done some technical videos, and then I switched on making these interviews with amazing developers. For example, Dennis Ivy and Tommy Tocco are two of them, for example. And yeah, you can check my channel, check some interviews. And my favorite technology is Docker and DevOps. I love JavaScript, a lot of other technologies. So now I start creating some videos about that. I'm already working on that in these days. And then that's it. You can
so Francesco's video is linked below, and so is Tommy's. I just tagged him. And Francesco, the reason why I chose you was because of your determination. Like, you started this journey and you committed to 100 videos, and that's really hard to do. And I love seeing the process, because I remember going through that and having like really rough content, like you really didn't know what you're doing, and you just kept pursuing it. And I also loved your ability to pull people in for interviews. You were getting some high profile people at an early stage. That's not easy to do, but you're very persistent. You go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. So there are some people who are asking, how can you manage to have some amazing developers? And I say, I just ask to them, and they say yes. So that's it.
You have a characteristic of what Floor and Pop has, where you're very persistent. You just keep messaging and you do that, and that's really good to have. So your persistence and seeing that, I can see that with a little polishing, you'll do good.
Yeah, let's say persistent or annoying. So one of those, though.
Both work. Those are good for business. So Tommy, on the other hand, Tommy, I'll give you a quick introduction. Then I want to have you introduce yourself. You're 16 years old, right?
Yeah, I'm 16.
Yeah, 16 years old. When I watched the first time I watched your tutorial, I watched one of your tutorials. I remember just seeing you pop up in a live stream, and then I just checked out your channel. Your style reminded me a lot like myself here, and I'm not trying to flatter myself here and say my style is really good, but it was really easy to understand. And I noticed that you would, every time you would do something, you would always make sure to go back and explain what you did. And you did a lot of things that a lot of tutorials miss. Maybe somebody might be charismatic, they're good on camera, but they just don't really cover things that well. So you're very articulate in how you explain things, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of tutorials like that. You pick that up. So I love that style. You at your age and your ability to say yes to certain things like this live stream. This isn't easy to do, but you're just, hey, let's do it. You want to do a Child Francesco. You're always up for doing something, and you've been consistent with your content. So I love that about you, and that's why I've also made you one of the predictions here of people that I know are going to be successful. So go ahead and talk about your channel and the background there.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Dennis, for having me on the live stream. So I'm Tommy, I'm 16, as Dennis said. I'm from Nigeria, but I stay in the UK. So I started learning code like a few years ago when I was very little, and I picked up with HTML, CSS, the basic stuff, and then later on I moved on to the web development. I did different things like creating games, building Android apps and stuff like that. But then I found Django and saw that I really love this framework, love what it does, and so I stick with that. And when I knew a little above the basics a few months ago, I think July last year, 2020, then I started my YouTube channel, and it's been great since then.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so not too long of a time there. I mean, you're pretty new, and that's good growth to see. Yeah. So you guys are going to experience a lot of the things that I kind of dealt with, and it's cool to see that going back and seeing somebody earlier in that stage going through that. And one of the most exciting things is probably seeing people that maybe have learned from your tutorials, and you get to see that development process. Because I remember the first month or two, they'll see a tutorial, thank you, this really helped, it's awesome. And then about 6 months into it, people have gone that full cycle, because to learn something, let's say it was Django, you can pick that up in a month, 2 months, 3 months. But that 6 month cycle, you're now going to have a lot of people that have been impacted by your work. So that's probably been the most exciting thing. And I would say the biggest privilege to be able to see somebody go full cycle and see that. Tommy, you're going to start experiencing that. And that's really, really fun, and probably makes all of this worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at some point, I do want to go into a Q&A here. So we'll get to the chat here. But Francesco, you had some questions. You said you weren't too prepped. You had some questions lined up. Maybe if you wanted to share a few things, I really want to give you guys a chance to go into those topics.
Yeah. Do you want to? I'm not understood, Dennis. Do you want to talk about something specific?
So I'll just ask you one. Yeah, I just want to talk about your channel, but your experience. You've interviewed over 101 developers, or 100, you said?
101. The challenge was 100 in 100 days. But from the first one to the second one, it was I had 4 days to set things up, because I never did one. Let's call them interviews in my life.
So with 100 developers interviewed, or over 100 developers, what's something that you've seen as a theme? Because I noticed you always open up, right? Like, what's your story? And everyone usually has this quick introduction. What's something that you've seen consistent in these successful developers? And what's something that you can maybe not relate to, but maybe take that advice that you've seen, because you've learned a lot, and maybe share that with newer people?
Yeah, thank you, because this is a very good question. I've talked with many people, we can say this. something that I've noticed by listening to the stories is that the most successful ones are the ones who have been really persistent. They really wanted to do that. Maybe they've talked about their struggling. So it has not been easy. So maybe the one who had the most difficulties maybe have been the most successful in the end. Another thing that I can say is that not everything works for everyone. So I've been people that maybe have been, I don't know, like streaming for some months with almost zero results. Then they put some videos on YouTube and they just exploded. So sometimes we just need to find our way, our media, which is the best for ourselves. So
yeah, I love that you made the Twitter post. I'm trying to find it right now. You said something about what's something that you've tried and did you succeed in it? You posted it yesterday and I responded, and it kind of goes with this stream. You said the key was consistency, and it was the ones that struggled the most, right? That's always interesting because it seems to be people that hit the path of most resistance that really go through with it. And you responded to my post and you said it's the ones that go through the most, cherish it the most. And it's really the person that you become in this process that's valuable. Like the end result is one thing, but the person that you became in that process is a night and day difference. Like you'll love the change that you see in yourself.
Yeah, and I think that if you manage to reach a goal with most difficulties, maybe you can really feel that, and you don't want to put that away. never more. So for example, this is what's happening also to me by making videos. I was really scared in the beginning to just put myself mostly about my voice, my English. I had really a problem. I still have that, my baby. Now it's way easier for me, for example.
So like for me it was between coding and YouTube. When I responded, like the things that I was able to beat was camera phobia. Like I'm still like, you can probably notice that I'm uncomfortable on camera. I just hit my mic there. But I used to freeze up on camera. Like the second the camera's on me, I would get all hot and sweaty. I would panic. I would get like saliva build up in my mouth. Like I couldn't talk normally. Was able to, for the most part, beat that. And that took so much time, years before, and just trying to practice, because this isn't the first time that this is the first start of this journey, but this isn't the first time I tried this. Like I would really practice and do this a lot beforehand. So beating that was the biggest success I think you can have.
I can remember our interview, Dennis. I remember that you say that you talked about when you had that script and then you start, and then you put that script away. You started without the script and you did that, and after that. When you are about to freeze again, you remember that at least you have done that in the past. So maybe once you have done that in the past, it's easier for you.
Having the little successes. So Tommy, you seem to be a little bit more comfortable. Like when I listen to you talk, what I notice in somebody that's confident is they talk slower in a good way. Like you're comfortable in your own skin and you're able just to speak to the camera as if it was your friend. Where somebody that gets a little bit more nervous may talk faster, and you might notice that in my videos. Did you ever struggle with that? Especially at your young age, it seems like maybe it came more naturally to you. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I didn't really have a struggle with like facing camera or recording, because I'm pretty used to it. Sometimes I just take like keynotes of what I want to teach, and then once I just look at it, I'll remember what I want, like scripts, like a little script to start. And then after that, I just flow with it. So I don't really have a struggle with camera.
Well, that's good. You just you have one less thing to have to tackle. I guess that's really cool. So yesterday I did a stream with gosh, wow, I'm completely blanking out here. I was doing a stream with Coding Phase and with Joe. And we went into more of the backstory. A lot of people wanted to hear that. So I kind of want to go over a little bit of that too, but maybe go more into the 100K journey. But we went from like the start to finish, like from how we even got into development. And that was kind of fun to share. A lot of people didn't hear the details of that. So for those of you guys that didn't see that, I guess the long story short, because a lot of you guys have seen like the 100K video or the 40K video where I sold that website, but way before that, from being somebody that was just like into affiliate marketing, starting off, just realizing, hey, I need a website, going into Wix, building out Wix websites, and we kind of went through that backstory. So if you guys have questions about that, maybe in some details, I don't want to go too far into that unless maybe somebody missed it or is curious about that. But Francesco, you I noticed we've done a lot of talking as far as like your streams. We're going into YouTube stories, you're interviewing people. What about your actual development journey? Like, I know you do Docker, you do Python. I've never heard your actual story. What's that about?
I started, I think, in coding in C when I was like 15 or 16, something like that. So I coded in my life, also some jigs, some sites, but I was never been passionate about coding. So I did that. I was also attending a computer science degree, but without the passion of coding. So you can just imagine the struggle that I had. So, for example, I like math, but I didn't like code, for example. This is strange. And then one day something happened that one professor said to me that I was so bad at coding, and this was true. But then I came back home and I started to really wanted to learn coding, and this was 2015. And then I started to be serious about coding with C# Unity 3D. So I started with game development for some months. Yeah. Meanwhile, I was started doing also Java, also Prolog, which is something strange. And then I moved to JavaScript, and then I stayed a lot of JavaScript frameworks in the beginning, and also backend with Java Spring Boot, something like that. And then once I discovered the Node, and this has been really a great thing. And for example, and then I discovered also Docker. I really felt in love with that. About Python, I've used that on my job also, because as a downloader, so I've used Django also. Yeah, but I'm not an expert in that, but I've used that. So I really am not really dependent on a technology. So I'm more about projects, ideas, and then I choose the technologies. So I'm really, jack of all trades. So basically, I know nothing basically. So
so you're currently at work, right? You said a lot of Node, and you seem to really focus on Docker a lot too, as far as content that I've seen. I'm assuming you're working with both of those.
Yeah. For example, now I'm working on a project when I'm working on creating some Docker images about some backends. For example, I started doing something with Python, and to create a Django REST API. I watched a video on YouTube about Dennis something. I can't remember the name exactly now, but I followed that video, and then I created the Docker about that Django REST API.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So tell me, are you you don't currently have a job, or you just got started? You said when you started learning, then teaching pretty quick. Have you applied anywhere? Have you done that, or are you currently working anywhere?
Yeah, I first started with like Upwork. I wanted to try freelancing there, and then I also applied for some jobs, junior developers that they don't really require degree and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, currently I'm not working. I'm going to school actually, right here. So no, I'm not working.
Right.
Have you? You said you haven't applied though. Like, have you gotten the feedback yet from like an interview process? Have you gone through that?
No, I've not gone through an interview process. Most of them actually deny.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, that's going to happen a lot. So that's actually kind of cool then, because a lot of people here are in that early process too. What has your experience been like? Like you said, you've been denied a few times. How many resumes have you sent out? How many interviews have you taken? Have you improved the interview process, or do you feel like you've taken information back from that interview and maybe?
Yeah, I've not reached the interview process. Not one.
No.
Yeah, I recently just started like the job stuff like 2 weeks ago or stuff like that. We've not been doing it well. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Francesco.
No, for example, I did just 2 interviews in my life. So I failed one, and another one did good. So
that's where you're working.
And I interviewed a lot of people. I'm also a recruiter, so I also do interviews. And I remember that I really failed hard, really first interviews, because it was about remembering some SQL commands, I didn't remember that. They didn't even give an answer. It was one of the luckiest days of my life, because some months later I was working for the European Space Agency. So sometimes when you got rejected, maybe it could be the luckiest day of your life, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. So I want to start, because this is a 100K stream, I want to get to the comments, questions people have. If you guys have anything, I'll just go back and forth with you guys too. If you guys have any questions for me, for each other, go ahead and ask those. But what I want to do here is, if you guys can, go ahead and look through that right side in the comment section. If you find something in there, just bring it to my attention. If you see something that would be cool to answer, let's go ahead and do that. But as far as like future plans for my channel here, I just want to give you guys, I guess, a recap of what the plan is for the year, because I started off pretty strong in November, and I put together my first course, had a couple of projects, and started doing more talking videos. I wanted to get more comfortable with talking in front of the camera, and I had a lot of success there. And then around June is kind of where I stopped. I had a couple of projects that I had to do, I had a couple of my own projects I wanted to do there, and I ended up trying to rebuild my own website for my course platform. So that took away a lot of time. So I've had like the last 6 months of like really inconsistent posting. I've had a couple of videos here and there, and then there was also that course with Brad. So I put together that course. That took about another month and a half off between just prepping things and filming it. A lot of work put into that, but I do plan to really get active. So really get active this year. So there's a couple of courses coming out. I really plan to expand upon the e-commerce platforms, the portfolio site, a lot of things that I want to get back to. So good stuff coming this year, and I plan to get really active in a few paid courses with that. But as far as the YouTube videos, somebody asked, are you done putting out free content? Heck no. A lot of content still coming, but it's coming with everything else. Francesco, if you notice anything, if you notice any comments, you can pull those up.
your Django Python. Some of them are just compliments for you. There is someone who is spamming. We need some moderator. Dennis. Usually I am your moderator, but now maybe I can't, or maybe I can.
So I saw somebody donated $10 to purchase another course. I'll add that. So that's going to be another free course for somebody. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm going to try finding that.
Yeah, there are a lot of Django questions.
Yeah, a lot of Django questions.
I like this. Let's answer to this, guys. Suggest me Django project for final year, maybe.
Django project for final year.
Mando. Yeah. You can click on that, Dennis. So
let's see.
Maybe you can show the comment.
Is that okay? I see here. So we're seeing suggest me a Django project for final year. I'm assuming if this is like a school project, something really good and interactive. I would always kind of lean back to like an e-commerce platform. So there's like your basic CRUD functionality. Or when I say CRUD, I mean websites that have create, update, and delete functionality. So like things that you can add to a database and so on. That really gives you the core of any project. But the reason why I stick to platforms like e-commerce website, my first course was a CRM course, or with Tommy, we did a contacts list. I guess that was more CRUD. It had more of the CRUD functionality, but these more complex sites, maybe a social app, which is something that I'm actually going to put out soon too. They go beyond, and they have a lot of room for advancing it, right? So let's say like the e-commerce platform, 70 videos into it, 15 and a half or 16 and a half hours of content. And there's still features that people are asking about. Like in the e-commerce platform, there's things like, hey, can we add in variants for products? Like, can we add in a size and a color for a product that we're buying? That's all functionality that you can build in. So for a final year project, the reason why I recommend these is because you have the freedom to, even after a tutorial, to really customize it and add on. You can't add on too much to a contacts list app or a to-do app. Maybe you can add an authentication, but something to that level can really make it can make you be creative and give you that freedom to do that. So something on the level of an e-commerce platform or a social network would be really good. Probably the two more advanced projects I'd recommend.
Okay. Social network project really has almost all the features you might think of, most of the basic features. Like, the CRUD operation, as you talked about, this messaging, real-time messaging. It has a lot of features, and I think that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy, do you have any videos on Django channels by any chance? Like, have you ever done?
Yeah.
I that's probably the most requested one, and it's the one that I stay away from for now, just because I need to do research myself into that topic. So Django channels, I've used it. I've made a chat application before, but it's not something that I'm confident to teach in yet. So it would require me to take a couple of days and just really dig into that. So that's why I haven't made it, but I'm definitely going to have to make it for sure one day. So somebody was asking about the course. So up to which level do you need to know? So I would say I do have a prerequisites video in there, and I would start with just the basics of Django and React. Like, if you at least understand how things work, you know, React components, you know what a function-based component is, and the basic understanding of managing state. Like, one basic crash course would probably be enough on both topics. If you know that, then you're good enough for that. But if you don't know anything, you might struggle with it, because I do start from scratch, but I'm not going to be explaining every single thing in detail there. So somebody asked me if I work on any frameworks outside of Django. So I've worked with Express before, Node.js and Express, very little. Like, I built out a couple applications. I've never really needed it for work. So outside of that, and maybe using Flask, just because it's Python, nothing really outside of Django. Like, Django kind of solves all the needs or everything that I really needed to use it for. So yeah, I never really had a need to go anywhere else. So let's see.
Okay. Someone asked, which main concept should we focus more on Django?
What was the question?
Which main concept we should focus more in Django?
So if you want to, do you want to go through that one, or do you have...
Yeah, I can go through that one. Yeah, I just think for me, when I started Django, once I knew how to create a database, link a database, just mingle around with the database, started building projects. And so I think the main thing about any web app, apart from Django or any backend framework you're using, is basically how to communicate with the database. So if you know how to do that, and you know the language in which you're using for that framework very well, so I think you are good to go.
Yeah, I think Tommy's right there. If you can connect with the database and handle that create, update, read, delete functionality, that and probably authentication. Most applications are going to need some form of authentication there. Whatever you're building, usually, like if you had any company asking you for, let's say you get a client that needs any kind of product, usually they need some kind of backend for it, at least, to authenticate a user. So focusing on that, I actually have like a little list that I was going to make a video on this topic, like the core essentials, what you should know about Django to get started. So I'll cover that one soon. So have any of you guys worked with Svelte? Somebody's asking, will Svelte replace React? I don't think we can really make that prediction. I think React is solid, so I definitely don't think it's going to necessarily replace it, but it is an alternative. It's a front-end framework, if I'm not mistaken there. So yeah, that'd be my short answer to that. Can't really predict it, but I don't think React's going anywhere. Neither is Vue.js.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because sometimes I see some polls. I don't know if Twitter is the source of truth, but there are a lot of people who really like React. So I don't think it's gonna go anywhere now. But
just in the job market, I wouldn't say even Twitter is probably not the best indicator. It is popular there, but if people on Twitter are usually just employees or the users of it, but the people that are in the job market, if a company's using it, then there's a need for it.
Mm-hmm.
Francesco, do you have any recommendations on that first developer job process there? Like, any recommendations there? So you had your 2 interviews based on that experience.
I don't know if you want to ask about I don't know how to crash the interview. One tip that I could say, because maybe it's asking about getting a job, so maybe to getting a job process, always be honest with your recruiter, because I don't know, the first thing, the most important thing for me is the connection that you create with the people who is interviewing you. So if, for example, if you put something that you are really not competent in, maybe you have copied some project, you can use some project, for example, for some good courses, but you need to have a solid understanding. For example, it happens to me. Maybe I ask about some projects, something that you have in your CV, and if you can't answer to that, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is something that I can say. Just be honest. And another thing that also I can say is that take your time to find your job. Try to find a job that is really good for you, not just look for a job just for the sake of finding a job, because web development is so big. So, for example, if you like React, you should try to pursue a job where you use React, not just a job, because after you are after you are employed, you need to work on that technology. So if you don't like that, even if you get a job, it's hard after a while.
Yeah, I like what you said about the relationship or the connection. That's probably going to be the biggest thing. It's not usually the person with the most talent that wins out a position like that. I've done a lot of freelancing, and you'll notice a common theme in freelancing too. It's all about the connection, how you can relate to that person. So even though you might have the technical skills, that's only part of it. It's all about being able to communicate and then also relate to that person and form that bond, form that trust with them. So if they like you, you have the skills, then you're probably going to move to the top for that position.
Yeah, and nobody knows everything. So there will always be something that you don't know. I think that sometimes during some interviews, some interviewer maybe are just asking something strange just to see how you react on something that maybe you can not know, for example. So maybe you just always ask question, be comfortable. Yeah, because maybe they want to know how you, for example, you solve a problem that you don't know.
Yeah, they'll usually ask you that to see your thought process. You're correct there. Yeah. Even knowing that the answer might be hard or virtually impossible to answer. True.
Yeah, maybe they are impossible on purpose because they want to see how you react. Because when you have something to do, usually you start Googling that from the beginning. And even if you are an expert.
Yeah.
Someone asked there that I want to know how you memorize code, and is it necessary to use both functional and class-based views? So I would like to go for that one. Okay, that's it. So I think in memorizing code, like if you're talking about the language like Python, I think it's pretty easy to, sometimes it's good to like write some notes down, but I think that as you're building project, doing more things, I think it will come naturally. So I didn't try to memorize the syntax of the code offhand, but I think the more you build project, the more you practice on that language or framework, I think it will come naturally. And in the functional and class-based view, I personally love functional-based view. I don't really use class-based view. I only use it in only sometimes. So I think it's not necessary to learn both, but both also has their downsides and upsides.
Yeah. So you're saying you don't necessarily memorize code, Tommy?
Yeah, I don't memorize code. I think when I build a project, I think it just comes naturally.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of a process that's hard to. By the way, somebody keeps asking about the winners when we'll declare the winners. So for the course giveaway, I said it early on, go to the website, submit the form, and I'm not going to announce it in the stream. I will personally message you guys back, and we'll be selecting quite a bit of winners there. So it's not going to be announced here. It's going to be in just a direct email response. So the memorizing thing, that's kind of, I like that topic because a lot of people struggle there. I think early on, you're trying to just write the code as you know it. You're usually searching up a lot. Like to me, it was Google on one screen and the code. And if I had more screens, I'd be splitting it up there. But I was Googling up every single step. And after doing it a certain amount of times, like there were times where I found myself just copying and pasting certain items there. Like for example, anytime I had to create a model in Django, I would usually just go to an old project or just quickly look it up and find that inheritance process. And then what I would do is, even though I pretty much had it memorized, I noticed that I would still have an issue with certain imports. Like I would forget what the import was, what the file path was. And then I would start forcing myself to write it out every time, and I would almost say it out loud. So just by physically writing it out rather than copying and pasting, and even though I had the code, I could have just copied and pasted and that was it. I didn't want to get lazy with that process, so I'd force it. And then after time, it's kind of like learning a language. Like whatever language you speak, right? You're not having to remember the next word you're saying. You don't have to remember how to say a sentence. It eventually does start flowing. It's all repetition. At the end of the day, once the fundamentals are complete, once you understand how to at least make it work, you can put together a project. Yeah, you might have to Google up every single step of the way, but the thought process is there. If you do it enough times, there's little tricks like forcing yourself to write it out every time to help you remember that, but it's going to be something that will stick. And with that being said, I only memorize the code that I write a lot. Like there's a lot of things that I forget all the time. Like I was working with Axios. I haven't worked with Axios in over a year, but when I was making Brad's course, he used Axios. So I was like, okay, how to make a post request with Axios and send data in the headers. Like that's a 2-second Google search. I have it. It's not like I completely forgot it. I remembered the structure when I saw it, but I didn't have to remember every detail about it.
Yeah.
So being comfortable with that, I would say. Francesco, how about you? Oh, you're.
I'm really bad at memorizing things. This is also why I failed my interview with SQL commands. I always need to check back. For example, I think that I'll try that thing that you said, maybe to write down the code again. Even if something that I'm really comfortable with, I always need to check it back, because I think that the most important thing is to understand really what that code is doing. For example, this Axios example is perfect. For example, I use that a lot. But for example, if I would need to use that after this live stream, I would need to Google that, start from that. I think that it depends on your needs. So if you need to learn without copying, this could be a good exercise. For me, the most important thing is to understand really every word, what do they do, every annotation, what there is behind that. If you know that, you can use that.
Yeah, so I think another trick, what I would do is I would try to think about my code without writing it. Like instead of just going and starting to write it out right away, I would try to build projects, like actually imagine the code, almost like whiteboard coding. So you're not even able to, what's that?
I said like brainstorming.
Yeah, exactly. But I would almost like write the code out on paper, like not necessarily every single line and do that, but I would draw it out, and I would even like, okay, if I wanted an H3 tag somewhere, I'd write that out. If this was HTML, I'd write the name of a function and just basic things like that. So you're really building up the neural pathways in your brain, and actually, you're creating that. So that's why the memory actually gets stuck in there. So just thinking of it outside of being behind the computer, like when I'm taking a walk, thinking about my code in detail. Yeah. I'm appreciating the compliments, guys. It's been so crazy getting the support. Like I still wonder why so many people do support me. It's I don't feel like I provided that much value, but people have been amazing with that. It's been awesome to see. Let's see. So
let's see if we have something else.
Django projects that cover the basic concept of Django. I mean, there's no, try not to. Are you asking about tutorials or just projects itself? I mean, we talked about like the CRUD functionality, create, update, delete. That's gonna be your core functionality. So that's the basic concepts, and there's a lot of those on YouTube. A lot on my channel too. So if you want to check those out, or Tommy's.
Yeah.
So load balancing with Django, I'm seeing this question. That's not a topic that I know too well. Like I've never really had to deal with that many users. Like the thing that I would do is just upgrade my servers. Like if I was using AWS for my database, I would just upgrade that, and that took care of it. But when you're talking about load balancing, there's different ways to think about it, but you're basically trying to spread out all your users, maybe on different servers, and maybe components of the website and how you're rendering them. So it's not a topic that I know too well, so I can't really address that one in detail, I guess. Francesco, how's life in general? You're always interesting on Twitter. Cool to see your stuff.
I really feel great. Yeah. I'm really happy. Today is really a great day for me.
I'm curious to see how you're going to merge your channel. Like you've done these interviews and you talked about coming out with tutorial based stuff. Do you think you're going to go the Docker route, since that seems to be something that you're really interested in?
Yeah.
Or it seems to be your niche?
I'm already working on some Docker stuff. I want also to keep doing live streams. Maybe one thing that I'd like to do in a better way is to, first of all, to improve the quality of my videos, which has been kind of hard by doing once per day. This, for example, is what I'd like to do. And maybe the scheduling, I really miss that. For example, I just put out videos when I have them ready. Instead, I would like to say, okay, at Saturday at 1 p.m., I have this live stream. So, and maybe do this on a weekly basis.
So, have a consistent schedule with that.
Yeah. And this is what I need to work on now. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
What about you? What about Tommy?
Yeah, I just want to be consistent in releasing the videos, because I see recently that I just release them at random. So I want to be consistent, maybe like 3 or 4 times a week or something like that. Study my analytics, know when my audience are online and stuff like that. Just try to improve in any way I can.
Yeah. Somebody was asking what I'm currently working on. So this is the project that I'm putting together next. So I actually started this in late November, and then Brad reached out to me, and we were talking about putting together the course we just put out recently. So we were talking about that. Then I realized, okay, I wrote up all the documentation to this project. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the template that I put together for this, and I actually have the full video on Brad's channel. So you can find the HTML, CSS version of this project. And what I'm doing is I'm turning this into an e-commerce website. So my first e-commerce project, I put together, I try to make it with as little JavaScript as possible, but then it just got to a point where JavaScript makes things really easy, and it made the project a lot easier. So I ended up adding a little bit too much JavaScript. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to build out the portfolio site. And then if for some reason, let's say Francesco, you have a francesco.com, right? And you want to sell some t-shirts and coffee mugs. So on this website, you're going to be able to write blog posts from. So I have this, and it's kind of like portfolio content or just blog post. You're going to have your rich text editor. But if somebody who knows you sees some stuff that they like on your website, they're going to be able to go and shop through that website. So the purpose of this is to integrate PayPal, continue with that shopping cart functionality, but do this with little to no JavaScript. So the only JavaScript I want to add here is going to be with PayPal payments. Like, there's no way to not do that because JavaScript just requires it, or not JavaScript, but PayPal, their API requires you to use JavaScript for that. But outside of that, that's a fun project that I had to put on hold for a couple of months, but I can't wait to get back to this and build out this entire application.
Nice. Okay, so you would see my t-shirts and mugs really soon.
Yeah. Not a big fan of swag, or at least calling it.
Yeah. Good for it.
But I think that's a really good project. Like, in that process, you're going to learn, first of all, you'll learn the basics, right? We're going to start off from the start of Django, how to build out and render pages, how to install a theme, because we are just going to use my theme here. So like a Bootstrap theme or whatever, you can install it. And then from there, we're going to move on to CRUD functionality. So in here, I'm an admin here, so I can create a post here. We'll go to create a post, and we're going to be able to write up a post. So I can add in the headline here, all the details. And what we're going to do here is build out our rich text editor. So this thing right here, a lot of Django by default doesn't have that. You usually have to build that in. Right. So if you want to add in like an image into your data here, I don't know if you can see that well. Let me try doing this full screen. Mm-hmm. So if you want to add in some content, let's say you're typing something out, we have a headline here. We can go ahead and use the rich text editor to make that bold right there, and then change the font size to like an H1 tag. So that's a rich text editor. So we'll build that in, and then we'll add in that authentication, e-commerce functionality. So you'll be able to log in and see your own account. So that's the project that I'm currently working on, but there is another one that I'm working on with Brad. So we're going to do a React Django, not a Twitter clone. It's going to be a social networking clone. So it's going to be like Twitter and Reddit. So you're going to be able to put out your post. You'll be able to comment on posts, but instead of liking a post, you're going to be able to upvote and down a certain post, right? So if you have a profile that has a lot of upvotes on all of your posts, you're going to start going into the recommended section. So we'll have a functionality like following people. So you'll be able to follow Francesco, Tommy, then you'll see all of their posts. The functionality like that with authentication and the ability to upvote, or I guess up and down vote. Yeah, so those are the two that I'm excited about, and my wife is still building out templates for that too. So she's put it together with style, kind of making that a little bit easier for me.
Great. Really great.
Somebody called me White Joe Santos. So that's coding phase. He says I'm the white version of him. I'll take that as a compliment. I like Joe. So it seems like we have a lot of technical questions. I'm trying not to go into that. I wanted to make this a little bit more casual. Let's see. Yeah, if I go to technical questions, then we kind of lose some people here. So try to. And then I throw off Francesco and Tommy if that's not their topic.
If I have a question I can't answer, I'll just say that I don't know.
Or just pass it off. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, just pass that to Tommy, of course. Django topics.
So in that case, guys, if you guys have something else you wanted to add, I think we can just kind of leave it here. I really wanted to make sure that people can get that free copy and introduce you guys. Make sure you go check out Tommy's and Francesco's channel. Remember, Francesco bought copies of the course to give away to you guys. So thank you so much for doing that, Francesco. So make sure you go support him. Tommy, great Django content. So that's Code with Tommy. And then Francesco is just your name, right?
Yeah.
Like the tag there on Twitter. You guys are active there. Also linked up in the description.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So Francesco, any final takeaways? Anything you want to leave people with?
It depends. I think that first of all, thank you, Dennis, because this is, let's say, the first time that I really can. Now I'm really a guest in a live with a lot of people watching this. Now I've done this maybe another time, but it were just two. I'm really happy. For example, I can say that, for example, if you really want something in the beginning, it seems really almost impossible. And after a while, if you do that every day, after a while it starts to seem first of all possible, and then done in the end. So yeah, don't be afraid to start doing something challenging, something hard, because you can also. I've had a lot of people that I'm waking up almost every day, and I check my messages. I get some messages like your videos are amazing, keep going, something like that. And maybe they really don't know how much this is important for people that maybe it's creating content. So maybe I will leave this message, for example, to support the content creators, like this video, also share the content of our people that you like, and not just watch that, because it's really important if you want to people keep going to create content. For example, like I said, when I started my YouTube channel, I started liking and commenting way more than before. Yeah. So maybe you need to do that to understand the effort. Yeah. So support the content creators. If you like them, you should support them.
Yeah. Thank you, Francesco. How about you, Tommy?
Yeah, I want to say thank you for having me on the stream. It was a nice time. Nice comment, everyone. I want to say
you got some fans here.
Yeah, so lots of compliments there. Yeah, and I just want to leave with the concept of I think to get better at programming or coding is just to practice and build projects. I think the more you learn project, the more you learn features. And I think you should just keep going. One day something big will happen. The project can get a lot of customers, or you can just blow up. So everything will the more you keep going, I think the more opportunities come to you.
Cool. The harder you work, the luckier you are. So yeah. So Francesco, Tommy, it was awesome having you guys, and to leave you guys with the final takeaway too. Like this process, I know some people look at my growth here and they think it's 100K in a year. It was so easy and so quick. You guys know that that's not the case. There was 8 years of consistent ridiculously hard work, whether that was programming or with anything outside of that, just in business, getting ready for that. It's going to be a lot of work. You guys are prepped for that, I'm sure. The channel, you're gonna be super excited one day, then you're gonna have a crappy day because a video that you thought would go good is not gonna go good. That's just part of the process. Never let that discourage you, and you will get to the point where you'll have people that hate you for no reason too. I mean, you look at Brad, one of the most likable guys, Brad Traversy, and you know, he posted a video and you have 20 dislikes in the first 5 minutes, and I've picked those up too. And I don't know whether that's people who've messaged me and I wasn't able to get back to them. Maybe they just don't like my face, but you'll start getting that and they'll try to discourage you. And early on, it's, you know, you try to ignore it, but it still gets to you a little bit, but you're going to go through that process and eventually you'll get past it. Definitely don't let it get you down. Yeah, you'll get over it. So I wouldn't worry about that. And definitely don't fight back with them either. Don't worry about that. Because the second you respond and start trying to troll them back, they want the attention. So just get through that. I'm excited for you guys and seeing what you guys' journey is going to be like. And as far as you guys watching, anybody getting started with their journey, some stories are faster than others. Some of you guys might take years to get your first job or even really get good at this. For me, it was a couple of months of hard work, working day and night. I'm sure if I worked a regular schedule, it would have taken longer, but I was able to just go through it. And I had to be my biggest motivator throughout this process. Like there's days where there's a bug that I need to be able to solve and present it. Let's say I'm presenting a project in a few days here and it takes me a week to solve one bug. Like those are depressing moments. So to get past that, like you have to be able to be your own motivator, get through that and just continue there and know that that's part of the process. Bugs, if they come, then you just need to know that that's there. Don't let it stress you out, because if you're constantly getting stressed out over every single bug, that's not good for your longevity. Learn to just understand, hey, that's just coding, extend your deadlines, and give yourself grace, celebrate the little wins. Don't try to celebrate only when the project's complete, but hey, if you added in create functionality, you're able to add an item to the database, go for a walk and celebrate. Go text somebody, let somebody know, celebrate those little wins, because it's those tiny little micro wins that turn into big wins. If we're waiting for, I'm not celebrating until this project's done, that's going to be a lot of stress there. And you're just building up your own cortisol levels inside because you're holding it in and you're not allowing yourself to celebrate that, and your body never gets that release. So make sure to compliment yourself, understand that you're more than capable of it. There's people like me that aren't natural coders. Like some people are just born for it. They're techie. I was not that way. I was a really slow typer, and it didn't come natural to me. So I always felt like maybe I'm just the odd man out that can't learn this. It's not for me. And I just said, you know what? That's a lie. Life, we can redevelop ourselves. We can make ourselves who we want to be. So yeah, I just want to leave you with that. Kind of went on a tangent there, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the support. You guys have provided me and my wife so much love and the ability to do this for a living. Like I hated my last job with the place that I was working at, and to be able to cut ties with that and start this and actually be able to make an income. I'm always hoping I provide you guys with enough value, but you guys are providing me with so much more, because I'm able to not have to go back to that position, and I'm going to continue to produce for you guys. So thank you guys for everything. Thank you, Francesco and Tommy. Yeah. We'll see you guys.
I want just to say one thing, that I'm really happy for you, Dennis. You can't really imagine how much I am happy for you, because I can see that from your eyes. Yeah.
Thank you, Francesco. All right, take care, guys.
Okay, congratulations on 100K once again.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, it's already 100. Yeah, and
101.
101.
Yeah.